an average American guy. Chapter 2. Although John had never considered this, he realized that he and his family had become poor white trash. Their house was his mom's mother's house. They had no car and walked everywhere they had to go. They were dependent upon the state's aid to dependent children. John saw himself as a beggar, a loser, and a drain on society and hated himself. He decided he shouldn't have breakfast or lunch because he was the oldest of the siblings and he didn't need to steal food from his brother, sisters, and mom. Thursday lunch with Margie, and she asked him where his lunch was. He replied that he had forgotten it but was okay, everything would be fine until dinner. He haltingly went through the passages from The Merchant of Venice to Margie's satisfaction. He thanked her profusely and went to his next class. In PT, he worked out on the treadmill, dressed, and went home, Lydia and Larry walking along behind him. As he walked, there was a huge lump in his chest and a hole in his belly. Tears tried to leak from his eyes, but he shut that down hard and gritted his teeth until he got home. He immediately went into his room and began to memorize the next passage for English class. Friday was a mirror of Thursday, and every day for the next month was the same. Finally, Margie remarked that he looked like he had lost weight, and he said that he had, but everything was just fine. John was hopelessly infatuated with Margie, but to poor white trash, she was way out of his league. He would pray, dream, and hope that he might someday not be poor white trash. He was 16 years old, and on career day, he attended the meeting with the Army recruiter and asked what the age he had to be to join the Army was. The recruiter told him he had to be 18 or 17 with his parents' permission. That meant he had to wait another year if his mom would give her permission, and 2 years until his 18th birthday. That night in the privacy of his room at home, for the first time, he cried himself to sleep, embarrassed and ashamed. In the face of everything, John became reclusive. Reciting to Margie at lunchtime was the only social contact he allowed himself. He stopped attending the youth group, didn't join the choir, and only sat stoically through Sunday school and church. He begged off Sunday evening service to concentrate on memorizing for English. Saturday, John spent his time working on the lawn and flower beds. John's mom began to worry about him. He had become a recluse, lost a lot of weight, seemed depressed most of the time, and never smiled. Gloria could only think of asking the pastor what to do. The pastor asked to speak with John after the Sunday morning service, and so he asked John what was going on in his life. John just looked at the pastor and shrugged his shoulders silently. The pastor said, "John, your mother is very concerned about you. She asked me to talk to you. What's going on?" John just shrugged silently. He set his jaw and said, "I'm fine, just fine." The pastor responded, "John, you've lost an unhealthy amount of weight, your mom says that you never smile anymore, and you never interact with anyone. You never speak except when someone asks you something. What's the matter?" John looked at the pastor and asked, "May I go home, sir?" The pastor nodded, "Yes." And John went home. The pastor sat, then he sighed and went home. Monday, the pastor called the school and asked to speak to the head coach. When the coach answered, the pastor asked what he knew about John Tolliver, and the coach said, "Not much." "Why?" The pastor told the coach about what he and John's mom were worried about. The coach promised to try and find out. The coach got John's schedule and began to ask his teachers what they knew. John's teachers said he was an excellent, quiet, studious, and polite student. The only teacher that had any insight was the English teacher, Mrs. Taylor. She could only point to Margie. The coach asked to speak to Margie with Mrs. Taylor. Margie said that after the first couple of weeks, John had stopped bringing his lunch and would only talk about the English assignments. The coach went out of his way to observe John. He noted the same things others had noticed. John was obedient, quiet, studious, skinny, and a loner. He also noted that during all the times he had observed John never smiled. Mr. Johnson observed John talking with Margie at lunchtime. John seemed a bit more relaxed as he and Margie talked. He even saw the whisper of a smile cross John's face. Mr. Johnson watched for the rest of the lunch hour. Margie had geometry the next hour, and Mr. Johnson asked her to see him after school for a minute. Next, Mr. Johnson told Margie about the coach's concerns about John Tolliver. She expressed her concerns as well. Finally, Mr. Johnson thanked Margie and said he would get back to her. The next day, Margie stopped by to see Mr. Johnson before class. Mr. Johnson gave her an apple and asked her to offer it to John at lunch. Just make up some excuse about you not wanting it. Maybe he will take it, she agreed, and at lunch, she told John that her mom had made her bring the apple, but she didn't want it, and would he like it? For the first time in many lunch hours, John smiled, took the apple, and ate it. The next day, Mr. Johnson asked John to take a minute after class to talk a little. After class, Mr. Johnson said, "John, I've seen you having lunch with Miss Wade a couple of times. You seem to be a little more relaxed with her. Anything going on there?" John seemed to brighten. "She's helping me with memorizing the Shakespeare passages." Mr. Johnson smiled. "She's a smart cookie and rather pretty, don't you think?" John nodded. "Way out of my league." "Will that be all, sir?" Mr. Johnson nodded. "Yeah." That lunchtime, Margie had half a peanut butter sandwich and offered it to John with the same excuse. John looked at her. "Margie, I'm not stupid. What is this all about?" Pointing to the sandwich. She replied, "People are worried about you. I'm worried about you." John interrupted her. "Why would anybody care about some piece of poor white trash?" And he hurriedly left. Margie was shocked and ran to Mr. Johnson's room and told him what had happened. He called himself poor white trash. Mr. Johnson thanked her. "Well, now we have something to go on." "Thank you, Margie. I'll let you know whatever happens." John was referred to the school psychologist, Dr. Peterson. He met with John during the 6th period, PT. Dr. Peterson greeted John at their first meeting. "Mr. Tolliver, welcome. I'm Dr. Peterson, I am a psychologist. I've been told that you may have a slight problem being dependent on the state's aid to dependent children. Is this true?" Dr. Peterson saw John's jaw set. "Today is my day to run." "May I go, sir?" Dr. Peterson replied, "No. You will spend the 6th period every Wednesday with me. If we don't talk, then we will just sit here for the period. John, I want you to know that I care about our country's future, which means I have to care about you. You are our country's future. Understand?" John replied through clenched teeth, "I'm not the country's future, I'm just poor white trash." Dr. Peterson responded, "I'll concede that you are white and your family is poor. But you are not trash. I have comments from your teachers, the coaches, your pastors, and your teachers from your former school. You are not trash. Jesus would not have allowed such an epitaph for a child of God. Which your former pastor assures me you are." Dr. Peterson continued, "John, you may leave, but you must promise me one thing. I'm giving you an assignment. You will eat a good breakfast, school lunch, and dinner every day for the next week, and I want you to pray to Jesus for the strength to do that. Okay?" John nodded. "Okay." Dr. Peterson reminded John that Jesus would be watching to see that he kept his promise. John asked, "Are you a Christian?" Dr. Peterson replied, "Whether I am or not is irrelevant. It's your faith that is going to help you, not mine. My skills as a psychologist will help you see your value in Jesus' eyes. You may go home, John, I'll see you next Wednesday." As John started to leave, Dr. Peterson said, "Don't forget your lunch tomorrow and your appointment with Miss Wade." John's head whipped around. "How do you know about that?" Dr. Peterson replied, "Oh, I know a lot of things about you. See you next week." John went home to his room to do his homework. His mom knocked on his door. "John, may I talk to you?" He replied, "Sure, Mom. Come on in." Gloria came in and sat on the side of the bed. "John, I know the school sent you to the school psychologist. Can you tell me what happened?" He replied, "Mom, I don't know why everyone thinks something is wrong with me. But Dr. Peterson gave me an assignment to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day for the next week. I hope everyone is happy. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to do my homework." Gloria felt dismissed and so left him to his homework. The morning came, John was preparing for school, and his mom asked what he would like for breakfast and lunch. She prepared bacon and eggs, a PB&J, an apple, and a can of orange juice. John smiled, kissed his mom, and left for school. Gloria thought, he smiled, he kissed me. So finally, things are looking up. Lunchtime and Margie met with John again on the school lawn. Margie was already there as John walked up, smiling, showing his brown bag. "Margie, I'm sorry about yesterday. I guess I'm just a little bit sensitive." Margie smiled back. "Sensitive about what?" John hung his head. He whispered, "About being poor." Margie replied, "John, you can't be much older than 16. It's not your fault if your family doesn't have much, but you've got a very nice mom, 2 pretty sisters, and a really rambunctious little brother. I wish I had a brother." They sat and finished their lunch, and John began to recite his Shakespeare passages. At the end, Margie said, "You're ready to recite in class. I'll tell Mrs. Taylor." They started to leave, and John asked, "See you tomorrow?" Margie replied, "Of course. It's nice not having to eat alone." Then she kissed him on the cheek. John was stunned. A kiss from Margie, Margareta Wade? He floated to his art class. In PT, the head coach approached John. "Mr. Tolliver, have you considered going out for the baseball team?" John had to admit that he had but didn't think he would have the time. "But I'll talk it over with my mom." The coach replied, "Great, practice starts next Monday during 6th period." It was the day for running, and John decided to time his run. He ran the mile in 6.2 minutes, the fastest he had ever run. He was tired, but he felt good. He then was determined to increase his speed and endurance, to knock 1/10 of a second off every time he ran. The coach approached him. "That's a pretty good run, but don't kill yourself. How often do you run?" He replied, "I run Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I lift weights on Tuesday and Thursday." The coach responded, "Okay, I'll get Coach Young to time you Mondays and Coach Scott to help you with the weights on Tuesdays." John responded, "Gee, thanks, Coach." That night John asked his mom about playing baseball. She thought that it might be good for him to play. She knew he loved baseball, and it would help boost his self-esteem. So she told John, "You tell the coach that you'll play." He said, "Thanks, Mom." Gloria had made one of the kids' favorite meals, macaroni and cheese with hamburger. Wednesday, John had lunch with Margie, and they talked about their lives. She talked about her sister, Carrie Lee, her mom, and her dad. He told her about the abuse the family left behind when they moved to Rorton. Margie smiled at John. "John, can you dance?" He replied, "No." Then, she asked him, "Would you like to learn?" He pondered the question a moment. "I think I would. But what would the pastor say?" Margie responded, "Let's ask him." "Okay." Wednesday, 6th period and the weekly meeting with Dr. Peterson. "John, I see that you have done your assignment. How do you feel?" John responded, "Dr. Peterson, I was in a very dark place. But the things you said last week caused me to reconsider my place in the world. I am much better today. You were right, my faith in your help lifted me out of my cell. Thank you." The doctor said, "I understand that you are going to try out for the baseball team. Good. I'll be rooting for you. Why don't you go to your run now? I'll see you next week." John smiled, "Thank you, sir." Then, he went for his run. At the Wednesday evening prayer service, Margie and John approached the pastor and asked to talk to him. The pastor replied, "Right after the prayer service in my office." "Okay?" At that meeting, John started to ask about learning to dance. "We, I, us, Margie interrupted. "John and I would like to ask about dancing." "Is dancing wrong?" The pastor looked at them with tears in his eyes. "I had always been taught in the church that dancing, well, touching a person of the opposite sex was a one-way trip to hell. That was a lie, a huge lie. At your age, it will present some very difficult situations. But the Lord will guide you if you listen to Him. There is no mention of dancing as a sin in the Bible, but you will be tempted. But we must resist our human appetites in the service of the King. Honestly, I wish I could dance with my wife. So learn to dance, be careful, let's talk every Wednesday after the prayer meeting, and I will pray for you too." John and Margie left to go home. John said, "I'll talk to my mom about it." She smiled, "Okay." John approached his mom at home, saying, "Mom, Margie asked me to take dance lessons with her. I would like to learn to dance. We have talked to the pastor, and he said to learn to dance, be careful, resist temptation, and listen to the Lord. What do you think?" His mom replied, "Okay, do it." The next day, John told Margie that it was okay with his mom and that he would like to learn to dance, especially with her. She responded, "Okay, I'll tell my folks. I'll let you know when we can start as soon as my folks tell me. John, I really would like to learn to dance with you, too." John smiled, "I'll see you at lunch." And he spun as the bell rang. Friday night came, and the Wades picked up John. Margie's sister's boyfriend was already in the car next to her. John sat next to Margie, and she told him to put his arm around her. It might be more comfortable that way. So, John did as he was told. His mind was racing, sitting next to a very pretty girl, with his arm around her, so close. He could smell the cologne she was wearing, and his head spun. He had on his Sunday go-to-meeting clothes, and she had on that gray felt skirt with the big pink poodles and a white blouse with a little bow tie. At dance class, John proved to be the clumsiest one in the class. But Margie was very patient with him, and he did begin to pick up the rhythm. He promised to work on his feet, the rhythm, and the steps. John and Margie sat next to each other during the break, laughing and smiling at each other. Soon it was time to go home. In the car, John put his arm around Margie and sat quietly. Suddenly, she turned toward him and whispered in his ear, "Kiss me." John kissed her, again, and again, and again. In fact, they kissed the whole 45 minutes home. John noticed that Margie's sister and her boyfriend were engaged in the same thing. Margie's parents seemed oblivious to what was happening in the back seat. It was like a dream. When the Wades let John out at his home, he could hardly walk. But he was happy. He had danced with a beautiful girl, and they petted while on the way home. John had fallen hard for Margie and hoped she liked him, too. At church Sunday, when Margie came in, she spotted John and went and sat next to him. She smiled at him. "John, do you mind if I sit next to you?" He replied with a smile, "I was hoping you would." After church, as they parted, he took her hand. "See you tonight?" She nodded, and he quickly stole a kiss as she went to her father's car. John began baseball practice on the following Monday. Coach Young wanted everyone to try out for the positions they thought they might do well at. But the coach wanted John to try out for pitcher. John did try out and proved to be quite adept at getting the ball over the plate. Next, Coach Young used a radar timer to check John's throwing speed. His speed proved to be 83 miles an hour. After that, Coach Young made John first string pitcher, and he began to teach John to throw the curve ball, drop, slider, and many other trick pitches. Of all the pitches John mastered, two were his favorites, the fastball and the slider. It would seem to be destined to hit the batter but breaks to slide just over the right corner of the plate. The first game would be played in 2 weeks, Saturday morning. John's family walked along with him to watch the game as he was tagged as the leadoff pitcher. John pitched well but had two batters get a one-base hit off him. Then the opposition's most powerful batter hit a home run, and the score was tied, 3-3. Then at the top of the 9th inning, John threw a no-hit inning. The score was still tied, and John's team had 2 outs as John came up to bat. Coach Young asked if John wanted a pinch hitter, but John asked to be allowed to take his turn at bat. The opposing pitcher had a bag of tricks and a very respectable fastball, but John stood at home base and gritted his teeth. Strike 1. Ball 1. Ball 2. Strike 2. John stepped back, and the line from Casey at the bat went through his mind. There is no joy in Mudville, the mighty Casey has struck out. John stuck his chin out in defiance and walked to the plate. Stepping up, John waited, the pitcher wound up, threw, and John swung, crack. The bat broke, but the ball sailed over the right field wall, a home run. The school went wild, the team went wild. Coach Young pounded John on the back. "Nice, John, nice." Then the Gatorade was poured all over Coach Young and John. Finally, Margie ran up to John, smiling and bubbling her happiness and pride in him. She grabbed his face and planted a kiss, whispering, "Congratulations, John, I'm so proud of you." Then she walked with him to the locker room. "I'll wait here for you." He nodded and ran inside to shower and change. When John had dressed, he came out to find that Margie wasn't there. He had only been 10 minutes, but she was gone. His heart sank, but his mom, Lydia, Peter, and Joy were all over him. His mom and Lydia kissed him on the cheek, and Joy was shouting that she wanted to kiss him, too. So John picked her up, and they exchanged a lot of quick smooches. Then the family started walking home, laughing, kissing, and celebrating the team's victory. The only thing in John's mind was where had Margie gone while he was in the shower? At church, John saw Carrie Lee and asked her where Margie was. Carrie Lee told him she was in the hospital. She told him Margie had an attack of appendicitis and was taken to the hospital to have it removed. John asked how long she would be in the hospital, and Carrie Lee told him she would be home tomorrow morning if everything was alright. John asked, "Do you think I could visit her after school tomorrow?" Carrie Lee replied, "It should be okay." At the youth group meeting that evening, Carrie Lee told John that a visit would be welcome after school tomorrow. She would meet him at the library after school. John asked Lydia to tell their mom that he was going to try to see Margie after school. Lydia said she would.